Kids, this is Mrs. Witt. I'm going over your prep work for tonight. As a review, we talked about the prep work today in class from the day before, and we really went through each of these, but I'm going to do it again, and I want you to follow along with me. I'm not going to do, I'll probably do just a few of each, and then you need to try to do the rest on your own. First, we're going to talk about what is each shape. The first shape, let's say this is number 1. Number 1 is a parallelogram. So I would go back and look at my reference sheet and see what is the area formula for a parallelogram. And if I look that up, I notice that it says A equals base times height. So the first thing I need to do is I need to recognize which one is my base and which is my height. In this case, the base could either be the top or the bottom, so I'm going to go with the bottom. And the height is going to be from one base. On a parallelogram, the height is from one base to the base that is opposite of it. So it's from here, from this base, all the way up to the next base. So this would be my height. Then I want to figure out what does my base equal and what does my height equal. My base equals, if I count across the bottom, is 1, 2, 3, 4. And my height is equal to, if I go from one base to the other base, is a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now I have the two numbers that I need, and I plug them in. So now I would have A equals, my base was 4 and my height was 5, and I multiply the two numbers, so now my area is equal to 20. When you see squares like this, they do not tell me if it's in yards, inches, or feet, so the generic name to represent that would be unit. So we're going to write unit squared with a little 2. So that's how you do the first one. The one below it is also a parallelogram, number 2. So you would solve that the same way. Let's talk about number 3, if this is number 3. What shape is this? I look at it and I see it's a triangle. So I go and I look to my FSA reference sheet and I look up what is the formula for a triangle. Remember, you do not need to memorize these. You just need to know what shape goes with which formula. Again, the triangle has 3 sides, so I'll go down to the third A on my reference sheet, and it says A equals 1/2 base times height. And this makes sense because a triangle is half of a square, or it's basically half of a parallelogram. So I need to now find my base and find my height and then figure out what those are. My base for my triangle is down at the bottom, and my height needs to go from the base all the way up to its tallest altitude, the tallest point. So here's my base all the way up to the tallest point, would be up here, and that would represent my height. Now I need to figure out what is the length of my base, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4. What is the length of my height? It would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so now I need to plug in my numbers. So I plug in my base, which would be 4. I plug in my height, which would be 10. I'm putting parentheses so I don't think it's 410. And I need to multiply them, and then I need to multiply it by 1/2, which is basically cutting it in half. But remember, I taught you that little trick that if you could, and you have an even number as one of your factors, you can cut one of those factors in half before you multiply. So I'm going to choose to cut the 10 in half. And I'm going to make sure I mark off the half so I don't do it again. And now I'm going to be multiplying 4 times 5 to get my area, which that would equal 20. So my area equals 20. Again, I don't know if it's inches or feet, so I say units squared. Okay, let's look at number 4. Number 4. This is a trapezoid. A trapezoid that is also on my reference sheet, that formula. But again, you got to know what the shape is and which formula to use for which shape. Remember, the trapezoid has the word trap, and it's the only area formula that's trapped over there with the volume, people. So if you look it up on your reference sheet, it says A equals 1/2, and it says height first on the reference sheet, but it doesn't matter. You can do the bases first. So I'm going to say base 1 plus base 2 times the height. So basically this is just like a triangle, except for you notice a triangle only has one base, but a trapezoid has two bases. It doesn't go up to a point, so it has two bases. So we have to put those two bases together, and then it would look just like the triangle. So I'm going to figure out what my first base is and my second base. My first base is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My second base is 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I need to find out what my height is. Whoops. My height, whoops. Guys, I kind of cut it off. Kind of see the H right there. So what is my height? There, let me move it that way. My height needs to go from one base to the next. So you can either choose to do it in the middle of the shape, like this, or you can just go out on the side and make your height here. Either way, they're both the height and they're both equal. Okay, so I'm going to erase this one in the middle and kind of go with the one on the outside, just because it helps me see it easier. Okay, and I'm going to figure out my height. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. My height is 4. Now I just plug in my numbers. So I have the first base is 6, my second base is 4, and my height is 4. So when I put my two bases together, I get a total of 10. So I'm doing 10 times 4, but I can't forget I got to cut it in half like the triangle. Well, you can cut one of your factors in half. I'm going to choose to do the 10. So I'm going to cross that out, and now I have 5 times 4. So my area of that trapezoid is 20 units squared. The second page, again, you have your triangle. You remember what your formula is. You need to include your formula. A equals 1/2 base times height. I have a triangle again. A equals 1/2 base times height. I have a triangle again. A equals 1/2 base times height. And I have a parallelogram. Whoops. And this is going to be A equals just base times height. We're not cutting it in half because it's not a triangle. So you can solve those on your own. The next page we have a parallelogram. It's A equals base times height, but they threw a little trick in there. They're giving you the area, so you're just going to plug that in, and they give you the base, which was 9. You have to figure out the H. You have to figure out the height. So we're basically saying height equals blank miles. And this is the same thing on the next one. So again, they're giving you that area. You have to find, in this case, you have to find the base. Okay? So pay attention to that. The back side is just distributive property. I'm not going to go over this. I feel at this point you guys should know this. We have spent almost 2 weeks on distributive property. Well, I'll say a week and a half. But anyway, I hope this helps you with your homework tonight. Remember all the things we talked about in class. Remember, I want you to write down the formula for each and every shape. I want you to label what is the base, what is the height. I want you to make sure when you do the height that it goes, if you're talking about a parallelogram, it goes from one base all the way up to the other base. If we're talking about a triangle, it needs to go from the base all the way up to the top point of the triangle, the highest altitude. And then if it's a trapezoid, again, the height needs to go from one base, the bigger base, to the smaller base. Remember that a triangle and a trapezoid, you're multiplying times 1/2, so basically you're cutting it in half, not on the parallelograms. Okay, I hope this helps you, and I will see you guys tomorrow ready to grade this prep work. And I hope you enjoyed your half a day. See you later. Bye-bye.